They look up at the sky and see clouds, but they should be seeing their doom, because what happens when the self-proclaimed god of Sky PA decides the moon is too lonely a throne? What if Enel looked down at the chaotic blue sea and decided that the pirates and marines fighting for supremacy were nothing more than unruly children needing discipline? The world thinks the emperors of the sea are the pinnacle of power, but the game changes instantly when the Ark Maxim breaks through the cloud barrier above the New World, bringing with it a storm that defies nature itself. This is not a story of a pirate finding a treasure. This is the story of a god descending to claim his garden. The New World is a place where weather kills the weak, but for Enel, weather is a fuel source. The Ark Maxim descends not randomly, but drawn to the immense electrical energy of a specific location known as Ragin Island, where lightning falls like rain forever. For any normal crew, this island is a death trap. But for Enel, it is a homecoming, a natural battery to charge his ship and his own body to levels previously impossible. He steps off his golden throne and breathes in the ozone, his observation haki, or mantra as he calls it, instantly covering the entire island and extending miles out into the violent sea. He senses life forms, weak ones, struggling against the lightning. It is the fallen monk pirates led by Aruj, a fellow Sky Islander. Aruj is struggling to navigate the lightning rain when suddenly the storm stops. Not because the weather cleared, but because all the lightning was sucked into a single point. Aruj looks up and sees a figure floating amidst the static discharge. Recognition flashes in his eyes. He knows the stories of the tyrant of Skypea. Enel looks down at Aruj with that familiar arrogant smirk and asks if the blue sea is full of such fragile creatures who cower from a little static. Aruj warns him. He tells Enel that down here Logia powers are not invincible, that there are monsters in these seas who can grab lightning and crush it. Enel laughs. That distinct hysterical laugh echoes over the thunder. He raises a finger and unleashes a casual Elthor, aimed at Uruj's ship, intending to vaporize it instantly just to make a point. But then something impossible happens. A massive metal arm intercepts the lightning. The blast disperses. It was not Uruj who stopped it, but another ship that had been using the magnetic fields of the island to navigate. Eustace Captain Kidd. The interaction between electricity and magnetism is immediate and volatile. Kidd steps onto the deck, grinning like a maniac, seeing a challenger who attacks with pure energy. He mocks Enel, calling him a flashy light bulb. Enel is confused. In his world, attacks simply hit or they don't. He has never seen his lightning pushed aside. His ego bristles. He teleports instantly using the conductivity of the air appearing right behind Kidd, ready to deliver 50 million volts directly into the pirate's spine. Speed is Enel's greatest weapon. In the first half of the Grand Line, this move ends fights instantly. But this is the New World. Just as Enel materializes, a blade whistles through the air. Killer. The masked first mate swings his punishers. Enel doesn't even dodge. Why would he? He is lightning. Physical attacks phase through him, but then pain. Sharp searing pain cuts across his chest. Blood sprays onto the golden deck of the Maxim. Enel stumbles back, eyes wide in genuine shock. He touches the wound. It's real. He bleeds. For the first time since meeting the Rubber Man, he has been cut. Killer stands there, blade spinning, calmly stating that he cut the sound of the thunder itself. This is the moment Enel learns the hard truth of the Blue Sea. Haki, the invisible armor that bypasses his intangibility. Panic flares for a second, but Enel is a combat genius. His mantra is superior to almost anyone in the New World. He realizes instantly that the intent to harm him preceded the attack. He can sense the spiritual pressure. He realizes he has been lazy, relying only on his fruit. If these insects can touch him, he simply must not let them get close. The god complex fractures, but underneath it, a cold calculation forms. He stops floating and stands his ground. The air pressure drops. The clouds above Raijin Island turn pitch black. Enel stops laughing. He overloads the Ark Maxim's despair reactors. He is done playing. He channels the island's infinite lightning supply into his own body, transforming into his giant Raijin form, not out of desperation, but out of pure desire for annihilation. Kidd and Killer realize too late that they aren't fighting a normal Logia user. They are fighting a living natural disaster with an infinite battery. Enel unleashes a technique he could never use in Skypea because it would destroy the land he wanted to rule. But here he doesn't care. 200 million volt Amaru Planet Scorcher. The explosion is visible from islands away. It is not just lightning, it is a whiteout event. When the light fades, the Kidd pirate ship is heavily damaged, scorching marks everywhere, the crew unconscious or blown into the sea. Kidd and Killer are standing, but barely smoke rising from their bodies, forced to retreat Not because they lack heart, but because the destructive output is simply unsustainable to tank. Enel watches them flee. He breathes heavily. The wound on his chest is cauterized by his own electricity. He does not chase them. He sits back on his throne. The arrogance is dampened, but his ambition is sharpened. He realizes he needs an army. He needs followers who understand this power called Haki. And most importantly, he senses something else with his mantra. Far to the east, a vibration in the atmosphere that feels like the opposite of his light. A darkness so profound it feels like a void in his radar. Enel is intrigued. He despises it. It feels dirty. It feels like a direct insult to his radiance. He captures a few surviving members of Uruja's crew and interrogates them not with torture, but with voltage stimulating their nervous systems to force truth. They speak of the emperors. They speak of a man who hunted the strongest devil fruits, a man who controls darkness and gravity. Marshal D. Teach, Blackbeard. Enel smiles, but there is no warmth in it. He decides that if he is to rule this blue sea, he must extinguish the darkness first. He deduces that this Blackbeard is the primary rival for dominance. He sets the Ark Maxim to autopilot following the magnetic pull towards the location of this void. But Enel is smart. He knows now that he can be cut. As the ship travels, he begins to train. He uses his mantra to observe the sea beasts, the fighting fish, the chaotic battles happening on the islands below. He begins to understand that Haki is just another form of electricity, another energy current in the body. If he can control lightning, he can control this spirit energy. He spends weeks in meditation forcing his observation Haki to evolve into future sight, because for a man made of light, seeing the future is the only way to ensure he is never touched again. The news spreads fast. A golden ship flying in the sky destroying marine patrols and pirate crews alike with beams of judgment. The world government tries to suppress the information, but the name starts whispering through the New World underground. God has returned, and he is hunting the new emperor. The trajectory is set for the pirate paradise of Hachinosu. Blackbeard is throwing a party celebrating his recent victories, unbeknownst that the sky above his island is beginning to swirl with unnatural yellow clouds. The clash of light and dark is inevitable, and the new world is about to learn that while pirates seek freedom, Enel seeks submission. Hachinosu is loud. It is a beehive of scum where music is replaced by the sound of breaking glass, and laughter is indistinguishable from screams. The Blackbeard pirates are in full swing celebrating a recent raid where they stole a fortune in devil fruits. Marshal D. Teach sits at the center of the plaza drinking cherry pie filling straight from a barrel, his darkness swirling lazily around his boots like a loyal pet. He feels invincible. Why wouldn't he? He possesses the power to destroy everything with tremors and the power to consume everything with darkness. But the party dies instantly, not with a bang, but with a static hum that makes every hair on every pirate's body stand straight up. The music stops because the air itself becomes too charged to carry sound waves. They look up and the sun is gone. In its place is a massive golden underbelly blocking out the sky. The Ark Maxim does not float quietly, it hums with the energy of a captured storm. Enel stands on the railing looking down at the pirate island with eyes that judge and condemn. He doesn't see warriors, he sees insects crawling on a rock. He doesn't announce his arrival. Gods do not introduce themselves to mortals. He simply raises his hand and taps his drums. A single pillar of blue-white light descends. It is not an attack, it is an erasure. The entire eastern district of Hachinosu simply ceases to exist, vaporized in a flash that blinds half the crew. The shockwave hits seconds later, flipping tables, shattering windows, and knocking lesser pirates unconscious from the sheer pressure. Blackbeard doesn't flinch. He laughs. That deep rumbling zeh-ha-ha-ha that shakes the ground. He looks at the crater where his subordinates used to be and smiles. He sees the golden ship and his eyes turn into dollar signs. He screams up at the sky, inviting the intruder to come down and share a drink before he takes that shiny ship for himself. Enel is insulted. The audacity of this dirt-covered glutton to speak to him as an equal is the final straw. Enel dissolves into electricity and teleports instantly not to the ground but to the skull rock overlooking the plaza. He sits there legs crossed, looking down at Teach. He asks if this is the darkness that dared to vibrate on his radar. He calls it ugly. He calls it a stain on his blue sea. Van Augur is the first to react. The sniper is always calculating. He fires 3 shots faster than the eye can blink bullets wrapped in Haki aimed right between Enel's eyebrows. But Enel's mantra has evolved. He saw the trigger pull before Augur's finger even moved. Enel tilts his head lazily, letting the bullets pass through his earlobe, turning into sparks. He points a finger at Augur. 30 million volts Hino. A bird made of lightning flies at the sniper. Augur barely dodges, warping himself to a rooftop, but the explosion melts the stone where he stood. This is the difference in firepower. The Titanic captains realize they aren't fighting a pirate captain who duels. They are fighting an orbital strike cannon. Jesus Burgess, reckless and loud, leaps into the air hoping to smash Enel with physical might. Enel doesn't even look at him. Blast of electricity sends the massive wrestler crashing back down, smoking and twitching. Enel yawns, but then the gravity shifts. The debris on the ground stops falling. The smoke stops rising. Everything begins to drag toward the center of the plaza. Blackbeard has stood up. He opens his palm and the darkness erupts, spiraling into a void that swallows the light. Black vortex. Enel feels it for the first time. Panic. Not pain, but the terrifying sensation of losing control. His body, which is usually weightless light, is being dragged physically through the air. He tries to teleport away, but the darkness doesn't just pull his body, it pulls his devil fruit powers. He is sucked straight into Blackbeard's grasp. Teach grabs Enel by the throat. The contact is jarring. Enel's lightning turns off. He is flesh and bone. He is mortal. Blackbeard grins, showing his missing teeth, and slams Enel into the ground with a quake-imbued punch. The island fractures. The pain is blinding. It's worse. Then the reject dial. It's worse than hockey. It's the feeling of his very soul being crushed. Enel coughs blood, gasping for air. Blackbeard leans in, gloating, telling him that lightning is fast, but gravity is infinite. He prepares a second punch to finish the job. But Enel is a genius of adaptability. He realizes in that split second of agony that while his powers are nullified on contact, the heat he generated seconds ago still lingers in his gold staff. He can't turn into lightning, but he can still use the gold. He stabs his golden staff into Blackbeard's shoulder, not as a weapon, but as a conductor. The moment Blackbeard flinches, Enel kicks him in the stomach, not with strength, but with a burst of static that he managed to build up internally. The microsecond Blackbeard's grip loosened. Enel rolls away, scrambling back, gaining distance. He wipes the blood from his mouth. His eyes are wide, not with fear anymore, but with a cold fury. He understands the enemy now. The fat man must touch him to win. If he touches him, he dies. It is a game of tag where being tagged means death. Enel levitates high into the air, out of reach of the vortex. He decides that if the darkness consumes everything on the ground, he simply won't touch the ground. He raises both hands to the sky. The clouds swirl, turning pitch black as he summons the atmosphere of the new world to his aid. He isn't just going to zap Blackbeard, he is going to restart his heart with enough voltage to power a continent. Blackbeard looks up, realizing the sky is screaming. He screams at his crew to take cover. Enel unleashes Mamaragan Heavy Thunder. It isn't a single bolt. It is a rain of lightning. Thousands of strikes per second, plummeting down, turning Hachinosu into a grid of destruction. The darkness tries to absorb it, but there is too much energy. Teach is forced to create a dome of darkness to survive, but his crew is not so lucky. The island is burning. The beehive is being smoked out. From the smoke, Enel watches, expecting victory, but a massive shockwave cracks the air. The lightning rain is shattered like glass. Whitebeard's power. The Gura Gura no Mi. Blackbeard has punched the air itself, cracking the atmosphere and disrupting the storm clouds. The vibration travels up, hitting the Ark Maxim, causing the golden ship to tilt dangerously. Enel struggles to maintain balance in the air. He looks down and sees Blackbeard standing amidst the flames, laughing harder than before. Teach yells that the sky belongs to no one. He jumps, riding a piece of debris launched by a quake, vaulting toward Enel. This is the clash the world wasn't ready for. The man who breaks the world versus the man who judges it. Enel realizes he cannot win this with brute force alone. He needs to be smarter. He taps into the Ark Maxim's main reactor remotely. As Blackbeard flies toward him, Enel doesn't fire at Teach. He fires at the ocean below. He superheats the water, instantly creating a massive explosion of steam that blinds everyone. In the confusion, Enel uses his mantra to predict exactly where Blackbeard will land on the Ark's deck. He charges his own body, transforming into his giant Radiant form, but this time he condenses the power, turning himself into a blue-white star of pure heat. Blackbeard lands on the deck, expecting to grab Enel again, but he grabs pure plasma. The heat is so intense it burns Blackbeard's hand even through the darkness. Teach screams, pulling back. Enel doesn't let up. He drives a lightning spear directly at Blackbeard's chest. Teach counters with a quake bubble. The two energies collide, lightning and vibration, creating a sphere of distortion that threatens to tear the ship apart. The shockwave blows the clouds away for miles, revealing the terrified faces of the surviving pirates below. Enel stares into Blackbeard's eyes and sees the abyss. Blackbeard stares back and sees a blinding light that refuses to be extinguished. The battle for the throne of the new world has just passed its opening move, and Hachinosu is already crumbling into the sea. The Ark Maxim screams. It is a sound of twisting metal and dying gears as the clash between vibration and lightning tears the golden masterpiece apart. Enel watches his throne room crumble under the weight of Blackbeard's quake punches. For a moment, genuine heartbreak flashes across his face. This ship was his dream, his ticket to the fairy Verth. But Enel is no longer the arrogant hermit of Skypiea. The pain in his chest and the blood in his mouth have taught him the most valuable lesson of the Blue Sea. Attachment is a weakness. He looks at Blackbeard, who is maniacally trying to sink the ship to drown the fruit user, and Enel makes a choice that separates a king from a god. He decides to sacrifice the vessel to destroy the enemy. Enel dissolves into the circuitry of the Ark. He doesn't flee. He merges with the despair reactors. He overloads the gold, turning the entire flying fortress into a falling thermal bomb. He teleports out just as the ship loses altitude, hovering hundreds of feet in the air, watching his golden legacy plummet toward the center of Hachinosu. Blackbeard's eyes widen. He realizes too late that the ship isn't just falling, it's melting. The Ark Maxim crashes into the plaza with the force of a meteor. The explosion is not fiery, it is electrical. The gold vaporizes, coating the battlefield in molten metal, while the stored energy releases in a shockwave that flattens what was left of the pirate paradise. Teach is swallowed by the blast, forced to quake the very earth to create a trench just to survive the heat. But the chaos is far from over. Just as Enel prepares to rain down a final judgment on the survivors, a beam of light pierces the smoke. It moves faster than lightning. It moves faster than thought. Enel tilts his head, his mantra screaming a warning a millisecond too late. A yellow boot connects with the side of his head, sending him crashing through 3 ruined buildings. Admiral Kizaru stands in the air, his coat fluttering, looking down with that lazy, bored expression. He speaks into his Den Mushi, reporting that the rumors were true. A monster from the sky has indeed disrupted the balance. Enel rises from the rubble, wiping dust from his face. His ear is ringing. He looks at the man in the yellow suit. Light. He is facing light. For the first time, Enel feels a strange kinship mixed with rivalry. Lightning is fast, but light is the universal speed limit. Kizaru asks Enel if he has ever been kicked at the speed of light. Enel grins, blood dripping down his chin. He replies that speed means nothing if you can't predict where you are going. Enel's observation haki, honed by the constant threat of the new world, flares to life. He doesn't try to outrun Kizaru. He predicts him. The battle that ensues is a light show that can be seen from neighboring islands. Blue lightning clashes with yellow lasers. Kizaru is faster, landing hits that burn Enel's skin, but Enel is more destructive, turning the environment into a Tesla coil that disrupts Kizaru's linear movement. The Marines have arrived in force, Buster Call warships circling the island, but they can't get close. The sea is boiling from Enel's stray voltage and churning from Blackbeard's aftershocks. It is a 3-way deadlock between the Navy's strongest force, the most dangerous pirate commodore, and the god who refuses to bow. Enel realizes he cannot win a prolonged war. He has no crew, his ship is gone, and he is fighting 2 of the strongest entities in existence. But he has something they don't: the sky. The clouds are his territory. He realizes that conquering the land was small-minded. Why rule the dirt when you can rule the storm? Enel makes his final move. He doesn't aim at Kizaru or Blackbeard. He aims at the atmosphere. He channels every ounce of his energy, risking cardiac arrest, to create a low-pressure zone so intense it lifts the debris of Hachinosu into the air. Using the gold dust from his vaporized ship, which is still suspended in the air, Enel conducts a planetary-scale electromagnetic pulse. Raigo. Earth Cleanse. A sphere of black lightning the size of an island descends. Kizaru stops smiling. Blackbeard stops laughing. They both realize that if this hits, the island is gone. Kizaru is forced to fire his Yasakani no Magatama upward to pierce the sphere, while Blackbeard uses a massive quake bubble to shatter the air. The collision of these 3 ultimate attacks creates a white void. Sound disappears. When vision returns, Hachinosu is a broken husk, split in half. Blackbeard is alive but buried under rubble, his crew scattered and injured. Kizaru is hovering, his suit singed, looking annoyed that he let the target escape. And Enel? He is gone. He used the blinding flash of the collision to ascend. He didn't run away. He rose above. Months pass. The New World attempts to return to normal, but it can't. The balance has shifted. Sailors begin to report a new phenomenon in the New World. Certain islands simply go dark. No storms, no wind, just a static pressure that forces ships to stop. They call it God's Shadow. Enel has not retreated to the moon. He has conquered Raijin Island and lifted the entire landmass into the sky using the magnetic rocks and his own power. He has built a new flying fortress, not of gold, but of storm clouds and iron. He is no longer a pirate seeking treasure. He has become a fourth power, separate from the Yonko, separate from the Marines. He recruits not with charisma, but with fear and power.